It goes without saying that the number one question I get asked on this channel is why I don't play BTD6 or why am I playing the 5th game instead, which makes a lot of sense considering that the 6th game has around 50 to 100 times the daily active player base and way more content as well than what we have here in BTD5. Now, I know that I've already made a video where I talked about whether or not I thought BTD5 was actually better than BTD6, but that isn't the focus of today's video. Rather, this one will be a lot more about my personal experience and how I actually became the only really consistent BTD5 YouTuber, or at least the only one who's been lucky enough to grow a real community around this game instead of having to do so with BTD6 throughout the last 18 or so months. And of course, you guys really are the biggest reason that this has all been possible. I know that every YouTuber says it, but there's a reason why. I mean, when I first started posting videos, I didn't really have any sense of direction with my content. And unfortunately, that older stuff has since been removed from the channel as well. But I remember posting random Minecraft shorts that were poor quality, along with random gaming challenges for all of the 3 videos that I made before giving up on those. And it wasn't until I came back to the channel once I had really gotten back into Bloons Tower Defense 5 in early 2024 that I would consider posting videos on Phenomix again. At this point, it had probably been close to a year since I had last posted a gaming challenge, and I remember posting a few random videos about BTD5 in the beginning, but the oldest one I still have on the channel is this. A video about just how powerful a Max Monkey Laboratory in BTD5 really is, since I had finally just unlocked it myself. And while this video does have a little over 51,000 views today, you can see from this graph that it certainly didn't start off that way. In fact, it literally got 4 views in its first 24 hours on the platform, and I probably had around 30 or 40 subscribers at the time as well, which a lot of those were from those Minecraft shorts I had mentioned earlier. But I still remember this guy right here, Copy Dog, who was actually the first person to ever organically find one of my videos on YouTube, and I actually had a couple friends I sent them at the time as well, but I remember Copy Dog really being the first person who actually commented because they found my video on their own. And it's always so meaningful to me when I see them leaving a comment on one of my newer videos as well. But other than him and a few people that kind of randomly found my videos and didn't really stick with the channel, I didn't really have any sort of audience at this time. But even still, with how much time I had put into maxing out my laboratory in BTD5, I decided to try making a few more videos about the game, which honestly weren't the worst in terms of the idea behind them at least, although I still wasn't very good at actually making good videos yet. And I think I was also doing live commentary, which wasn't the best either, and so I had a few more videos that didn't really reach many people at their time. But then, everything would change on June 23rd of 2024, when I posted this, a video titled, "Can Dart Monkeys Beat Every BTD Game?" And you can see from the first 24-hour view chart that it started off just like any of my other videos would at the time. Literally taking 4 hours to get a single view and going another 4 without getting a second one. Considering I had gained a tiny bit of traction on some other videos before this one, you'd think that's a bad sign, but YouTube was just getting started, because of course, it would suddenly start getting around 100 views an hour, and I remember I was actually sleeping when the real period of growth begun, and then I didn't let myself check until a little bit later on the next day, so I was really surprised to find that the video actually had 1,200 views, and then I'd gained 17 subs from it, and I just thought to myself, if I could do this with every video, that would be pretty amazing. And I think at this point, it had slowed down for a bit, but then all of a sudden, it got another 5,000 views on that second day, and by the first week, it had a little over 29,000. Now, from what I remember, this really was the first video where I wrote out an entire script and actually spent a couple days making it. I think like 15 hours or so actually went into that video once everything was said and done, so I was proud of it at the time, but looking back, I mean, the thumbnail is far from perfect, and the video itself wasn't exactly amazing either. But yet, you guys still chose to view it, and beyond that, engage with the video by liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel from it, enough to where YouTube decided that it was the first video of mine that was really worth pushing to an audience well beyond anything I'd ever seen before. I know some of you guys might not consider 28,000 views in its first week to be real impressive, but keep in mind, I had 50 subscribers when I posted that video, and by the first week of it being out, I now had 80% of all of my subscribers coming from the newest video on the channel. So for me, this was really my first real period of substantial growth. But for some reason, even though this video had been about a full series challenge, I still decided to go back to doing videos about BTD5 specifically, although not before trying one more video about all of the Bloons games with this part 1 of a video where I ranked every Bloons game ever made. Sadly, that's still never gotten to part 2, and honestly, I think it's about time for that to be made. But at this time, I ended up going back to BTD5 specifically because I already had over 100 hours in the game by that point, and so I figured I could make better content around it than any other games in the series. Of course, in my video about whether or not Dart Monkeys can beat every BTD game, I didn't even include the 6th game, and instead mentioned H-Bomb's video where he had already shown that they could beat Chimps mode on their own because that was my inspiration for making my video in the first place. So I guess you can say that I was already avoiding BTD6 before I had even fully decided to lock into BTD5 specifically. Although locking in is definitely what you can say I was beginning to do. I was posting content consistently, starting to push myself more with the challenges I was doing, and even beginning to figure out how to make thumbnails that weren't totally crap at least. And I made this video about which towers can beat Impoppable mode on their own, which I was definitely pretty happy with at the time, and even today honestly. But then I actually fell into my first slump. I tried making a video that wasn't about Bloons tower defense, which I had sort of pigeonholed myself into by this point, and yeah, that video didn't perform very well at all. Then I made a video about Dark Dungeon, which was the newest map in BTD5 at the time, and I expected it to do well, but it really didn't. And this made me a bit worried because I'm like, even when BTD5 gets new content, it doesn't seem like people are all that interested in it. And thus, I can really say that this was the first time in which I really started to find that when you're always making videos about the BTD5 era games, they can start to feel a bit repetitive for both yourself and the audience. And that will have an impact on your views. However, I had been dedicated to posting weekly for several months by this point, and I had a plan. You see, in the background, I began cooking up what would end up being my biggest video of all time by a long shot. And that's why, at this point, I was okay with posting this video that I knew wouldn't perform super well when I was gambling all of my Bloonstones on an event in Bloons Monkey City for the second time, having already made a similar video just a few months prior. And then I made this video where I attempted to push the limits of deflation mode in BTD5, which I quickly learned I hadn't done a great job of at the time and would end up going on to break the world record during a live stream several months later. But again, there was a reason why I made that video in the first place, because I realized I wouldn't be able to finish the one I'd been working on for a while and needed something to have for the weekly upload. And that's because this video I'd been working on was this. What I consider to be my magnum opus in all honesty, how far can each tower go in BTD5? I remember working on it while visiting family on Thanksgiving, having a hotspot for my laptop to have internet in the car, and I remember the pure sacrifice that it took to actually make this video possible. But when I posted it and saw the response from the community, it all became worth it. And unlike many of my other videos that you could say are mildly successful, this one keeps on growing to this day, which is what has allowed it to reach 850,000 views so far in a little bit under a year's time. And that feels kind of unreal to say honestly. The fact that the biggest growth period in my channel's history happened over 11 months ago now, and you can see that I released some of my most successful videos over this short period of time, which grew the channel faster than I could ever imagine. I had 4,000 subscribers when I posted the How Far Can Each Tower Go video, and just 2 months later, I had gained another 5,400, along with nearly 900,000 views from almost exclusively long-form content as well. And I'd say this period of time is really what set in stone the fact that, for one, I would actually get to have a small community that still persists even today, but also the fact that this channel is pretty much always going to be considered a Bloons Tower Defense 5 channel, and I'll be the BTD5 guy as a result. It would be really hard to make other content unless maybe I found a new game and became really good at it quickly enough to capture a whole new audience with a huge community or something, but I don't want that anyways. I just want to find ways to continue pushing myself with the content I make, and who knows, maybe I'll have another comeback when I post that video where I'm testing a full map of every tier 4 tower in the game finally.